League of Colorado's Task Force on Gun Violence Prevention. We're back from the hiatus of this summer, and this is I think, a very gentle kickoff meeting to make sure that we can line up for what's going to be happening soon, whatever that may be. And let's see, we're on Zoom. We are recording this evening. And I wanted to tell you, if we go by the agenda, that there's some upcoming meetings. One of the ones that I'm most excited about right now is what's happening next Wednesday, is using what works to prevent violence. Beverly Kingston from the University of Colorado will be talking to us. She is the head of an institute within the Institute of Behavioral Science. And she's been doing a lot of work on violence and what prevention programs work, and what it takes to stop this. I know that she does talk a lot about students and schools, but that is not her only focus. So we will see what she has to say next week. See, we will be having another meeting of this group on Wednesday, October the 11th. And you should save the date of October 25th. I have invited Rachel Dane of a law firm here in Boulder called Bridge to Justice. And this group provides pro bono help to people who apply for extreme risk protection orders. So she's going to talk to us about what the new law provides for, what it means to apply for this, what all hoops you have to jump through, some of the stories that have gone on, and some of the data about how these things work, where they're working, why they're working. And so I think she's going to be very interesting to hear as well. So that's next month on the 25th. So those are the upcoming announcements. I guess we should talk now about what we did this summer. Beth, you just came off a big event up in Fort Collins. Why don't you tell us about that?
Actually, I'm wondering if June, were you able to attend?
I was not, yeah.
Okay,
No.
I unfortunately was out of town on vacation in North Carolina. Originally, it was supposed to be taking place the end of August, so I kind of scheduled my vacation around that. And then they had to, redo the date because of the raw tools being available
Right.
at different times. So unfortunately, I could not attend, but I did hear the results were very good. We had a really excellent panel of speakers on Friday evening. Moms Demand Action and some others had tables there with information, but and I haven't heard that much about the speakers yet, what they actually covered and everything, but it sounded like it was a really good panel of participants. And then of course they did a demonstration of what raw tools of turning guns into garden tools, and did an actual demonstration of that. And there was a kind of a memorial walk around. The Plymouth Church has a that maze, what do they call that? I can't think of it now.
Labyrinth.
A labyrinth?
Thank you, labyrinth.
Okay.
They have a labyrinth, and they had people, the availability of the labyrinth to bring to have memory of those who have been affected by gun violence. So I think it was just a wonderful event Friday night. Saturday, they did have the Safe Surrender event put on by Raw Tools. They had 42 guns that were turned in, surrendered, which was great. Assault rifles. And I believe there were 2 loaded guns that were turned in. My understanding is that the owner did not know they were loaded. It was someone who was, I think, wanting just to get rid of these guns and did not check them at all. The nice thing about an event run by Raw Tools is that they cover all of that. They have people that are trained in recognizing, no one touches the guns until people who are trained with guns examine them to make sure they're unloaded, or in this case, to them at that point. So it's all done in a very, they've done many of these, so they know exactly how to do it safely and effectively. So, and legally too, because there's a way that has to be done so that the guns are actually destroyed before the owners leave the site, so that it's not looked upon as a transfer of a firearm. Because if it were a transfer of a firearm, then you'd have to go through all of the legal necessity of doing background checks and all of that. So because the gun is totally destroyed before they leave the premises, then that, is a way that they don't have to do that. So anyway, they know all that. They did it perfectly, and we did have a very good event.
Okay. 42 guns. That, my understanding is that you have a grand turnout if you have more than 5 turned in.
Okay.
So
Well,
that's
good.
outstanding.
And this is the first time it's been done here, although, well, I shouldn't say that. The police department, Fort Collins Police Department, did have, in conjunction with the city, or cooperation with the city, did do one gun buyback event last year. And I think they're planning to do another one in October, was my understanding.
Wonderful.
But I heard the details on that. But
Great.
as an event like this put on by a nonprofit church and involving community organizations, this is the first time that's been done in Fort Collins. So I think it was very successful.
Wonderful. Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
And Ann Thompson certainly gets a pat on the back.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Because I know that she's worked very hard with that.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. So what else has been going on with our partners this summer? Let's see. I attended the comeback meeting of the Colorado Coalition Against Gun Violence, and that includes Colorado Ceasefire, PTA, the College of Pediatric Medicine, the Colorado Faith Community, and a bunch of others. And they have decided that the focus that they should be using right now is to promote ERPO laws and ways to make this common knowledge to everyone. So all of them, including the Office for Gun Violence Prevention, are working on ways to publicize ERPO. And, our contribution, as we said earlier in the spring, is to, what we can do is inform the public of various issues that come along. So I was really pleased to find Rachel Dane, who's coming in October to talk to us specifically about our ERPO laws. Let's see, what else are they doing? I think some of them participated in the Fort Collins event as well. They were very pleased to talk about that. And I have not heard anything about what they plan to do at the legislature. Andrea, do you have any ideas about that?
I was actually just pulling up one of the documents that I wanted to mention, Rihanna, so your timing's great. I just got to the portion of it that I wanted to mention. I'm not sure if anyone has tuned into any of the interim committees, but one in particular that I wanted to call attention to is the Colorado Youth Advisory Council. It's referred to as COYAC. This is a group of young people, typically high school aged students throughout Colorado, that are convened on the council to study issues and make policy recommendations on topics they feel are very important to young people. And so every year we try and pay particular attention to what kind of things they're recommending. And a lot of really great research and study comes out of this group. It's really impressive, for a group of people as young as they are. They're doing some pretty sophisticated research and making some great policy recommendations. And the one in particular that caught my attention relates to the work of this task force. It's focused on gun violence prevention in schools and some of the potential inequities in resources and response in schools around the state. So they've looked at a number of different issues, including the effectiveness of school safety officers, mental health supports, availability of counselors, and how that might vary across school districts in Colorado. And as a result of this study, they are making recommendations for a bill that would include a requirement for the Office of Gun Violence Prevention to convene a task force that would examine gun violence prevention in schools. And the task force would be charged with looking at a bunch of different areas. They'd meet 12 times a year should the legislation come together and pass. Beginning in January of 2025, they would issue recommendations and a report that would be due to the legislature by December of 2026. So, we are kind of looking at, a somewhat lengthy study period, but basically the task force would be charged with investigating availability of school counselors in different regions of the state, threat assessment training provided to counselors and school resource officers, threat assessment results, including impacts to students, particularly minorities and students with disabilities. They'd be tasked with looking at current funding resources that are available, the effectiveness of Safe to Tell. Part of their research included some concern that there is a lot of misuse of Safe to Tell. And I can say just anecdotally, some of the stories that I've heard from my daughter who's 17. I think there is some issues of that going on, some pranking and that kind of thing. That's really unfortunate given how serious a lot of the things that Safe to Tell really needs to deal with. So you've got to sift through other things. And then they'd also look at long-term mental health supports that are available through schools. The other piece of this is something that was personally exciting to me, and something that I know we have talked about in this task force before. The bill would have another component that would require school districts to inform parents about the requirements of the safe storage law. I know we've talked about this as a group, and I really have to credit this group. Last year when we were having this discussion, I was at my dining room table as we were doing the Zoom call, and my daughter had been very interested in trying to do something about this issue. She goes to Denver East High School, which has experienced a lot of gun violence issues and threats last year. So she had been communicating with one of the DPS school board members around this idea, trying to get this to be a DPS policy. So when I saw that there's a proposal potentially on the table or for legislation to require this, education and notification on a statewide level, I thought that was really exciting, given the fact that, this is a pretty easy thing to do. It doesn't seem like it would be complicated in terms of implementation, since schools regularly send out communications to parents anyway. I had attended one of the Students Demand Action events sponsored by the East chapter of the group last year after one of the students was killed. And the Denver police chief that was in attendance had indicated that the most common way young people are getting guns is through their own home. So there's some belief that, just more education around this, and the fact that it is a legal requirement in Colorado, could be one piece of preventing violence against youth, either, harming themselves or harming others. So there's a lot of other good suggestions coming out of COYAC, but I particularly wanted to mention, the piece that relates to the work of this committee, and just kind of let you know what is in store for possible legislation there.
And
they're able. Oh, go ahead, Mary.
Can you restate the name of this group? I didn't quite catch it.
Sure. It's the Colorado Youth Advisory Council.
Youth Advisory Council. Okay.
Yeah. They are tasked with making a series of policy recommendations. I believe they had 5 recommendations this year, and then they can request that those recommendations get drafted into legislation. So they're in the process right now where they've actually requested the bill drafts. So we should see those soon. And then October 25th, they will convene again. to decide which proposals or which bill drafts will actually move forward. They can only request 3. So as I said, they've got a lot of good suggestions that they've come up with. I really hope this will be one of them. You know, it may be useful for us to kind of weigh in on this and really push for this to be something that they choose to advance and offer up support or testimony or whatever we may want to do to help that effort.
Does this Colorado Youth Advisory Council focus on more than just guns or pretty much just guns?
No,
No, they're focused on a whole host of issues.
Okay, thank you.
The purpose really is to have them put forth proposals of things that are priority issues for young people. Violence in schools, of course, being one of the top concerns.
Sure. Gotcha. Thank you.
it's basically a subcommittee of the legislature.
Oh,
Is that fair to say, Andrea? I mean, it's all youth, but they're appointed, and I mean, it's a big deal, this group.
It
And
is.
I went
Yeah.
to an event last night with the Colorado Black Caucus, and I would really like to talk about ERPO laws, but I'm getting a call from my board president right now, so can you give me a sec? Sorry.
Will do.
Thanks.
You know, one more thing that I'll add, Beth actually jarred my memory on this. I'm curious to hear what Beth learned through her event at the event last night, but sort of similar to that, I attended the presentation by the Colorado Latino Policy Coalition. They had recently done a pretty large scale survey of Latino voters in Colorado to gauge kind of the top policy issues amongst that population. And concerns about gun violence was something that ranked very high. They felt there's a significant disproportional impact to their community, and it's definitely something that they want to see action around, both generally, but they also cited specifically in terms of political violence too.
Mm.
I just wanted to say, Andrea, I'm really excited to hear about this proposal by the Youth Advisory Council, because Safe Storage up here in Fort Collins, our Be Smart group, that under our Moms Demand Action, we have a really active Be Smart group that has really been advocating with Hooter School District to try to get that safe storage information out. And they've really been reticent for some reason to get, you know, just general information out about this. So we've resorted to going like school to school to talking to principals and getting it out that way. But oh my goodness, if this could be a statewide policy, that would be awesome. That we would have every school district getting it out there and not have to go school by school or school district by school district. So yeah, I'm going to let my Be Smart people know about this. They're going to be really excited to hear this.
And I can drop the link in the chat to the proposal, because it'll kind of walk you through the areas that they studied and then the specific recommendations, so you can kind of see how they intend to set this bill up.
So if there's anything is there anything we can do to help advocate? You know, can I get the message out to help advocate that this is one of the 3 issues that they decide to pursue? If there's some way we can get that message out, that would be great.
Yeah, I do think that is something that this group might want to consider. I think in terms of you know, us, you know, officially reaching out and kind of pushing, we can send communication, as Beth was mentioning earlier. It's, you know, it's kind of a subcommittee of the legislature, because it's got the youth members who are actually, you know, doing the research and making the policy recommendations, but they're guided by legislators who are appointed to the committee as well. So I'm thinking that, you know, if we want to try and get a consensus to move forward, the LAC could, you know, send out communication to the legislators on that committee. And potentially the director of COYAC. You can't contact the individual students directly.
Mhm.
They don't offer up that type of contact information, not surprisingly, but we can definitely send communication to the legislators that sit on the committee. And then the COYAC itself is managed by sort of a coalition director. Her name is Sarah Moss. And I have communicated with her in the past and have her contact information. So Rihanna, I don't know if that's something that you would want to draft up. I would be very happy to do the same. We could, get a communication out to LAC to make sure everybody's on board with it. But, we just want to secure that consensus, but I can't imagine that would be an issue. This is very much in line with something that we would support and in line with our positions overall.
I agree.
Great.
Okay.
Can I go?
You're back. Yes, ma'am.
Great, thanks. 45 seconds. Last night I attended a meeting put together by Colorado Black Women for Political Action, bringing together community members with the Colorado Black Caucus around gun safety. The thing that most came out was ERPO enforcement. They're super psyched. They meaning, sorry, that was terrible. That community, the Black community in general, those representatives that were there last night were pleased with the ERPO gun laws, but very displeased with the unequal enforcement. And I mean, I know I've been at candidate forums where sheriffs and candidates for sheriff have said, I'm not going to enforce that. So that's I mean, there wasn't a thing I heard last night that the league could not get behind. So not surprisingly, but that was the main thing I heard about gun safety. There's a big concern about unintentionally erecting additional barriers. We had talked about adding financial literacy as a state standard. But state standards are barriers, and they're not, they're not fair. Let's just leave it at that. And so it was enlightening, and but ERPO enforcement was the main thing that's directly relevant to this group.
Okay.
That was longer than 45 seconds. Sorry.
You could have taken even longer. Well, we've heard this all along, and all of us have said it at one point or another. It seems to be that if the law is enforced, you have a sheriff who will enforce it, and there are other places where the sheriff doesn't enforce it, and you don't have access to those laws. How can we discuss that? I mean, other than, tearing our hair, is there some way that we can, point this out to people, bring pressure on those people?
Is there a chief of sheriffs?
Yeah, there ought to be a chief of
honestly,
sheriffs.
I know that sounds silly, and excuse my ignorance, but who is the boss of a sheriff in a county?
The voters.
The voters.
Right. Unfortunately, the voters.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. The only thing I did find out, just because we were supporting the coroner who ran up here in Larimer County, that the coroner is the only one who can actually fire the sheriff.
Oh,
okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you, Beth.
But I'm not sure, what the procedure is or,
Sure.
or why or whatever. But I did remember hearing that we thought, well, that's a good thing.
Somebody can.
It's important to have a good coroner. See, even that election is very important.
a question, because a lot of sheriffs said they wouldn't enforce it, but then when it came into place, they actually did. So do we have data on who actually isn't and who just said they weren't going to?
I highly doubt it, because it would take them submitting that data.
Mhm.
You know, I didn't, or I chose, I decided this ERPO wasn't strong enough to do anything about. I believe it would be self-reported, but again, I'm not 100% sure on that. Do
Yeah.
you have any idea, Andrea? That, I mean, that's kind of down in the weeds.
Yeah, I don't really know exactly. I'm trying to think where that information came from though, because you're right, Mary, that, you know, I'm thinking it must have been a news article or something that I had seen not all that long ago that had talked about how, you know, there was all this reluctance among sheriffs, you know, throughout Colorado to enforce it, but then it turns out that they really are
Yeah.
enforcing it. And so that information came from somewhere. And I'm wondering if there was a little more
Yeah.
data behind that that would be useful to us. I would have to do some digging because I can't recall where I heard that.
Well, I
And-
know that Weld County said they would not enforce it. I heard the Park County Sheriff say he wouldn't enforce it. And I mean, that's just 2 of the 64.
Well, it seems that eventually that data is going to end up in the Office of Gun Violence Prevention,
I would hope. Yeah.
I would hope.
but somebody has to know where they're going to go get it. So we should see if I mean, they're not going to start all over.
Mhm.
Somewhere this data exists, it's just not pulled together.
There's hi, I'm Emily. I'm kind of new to the group, but there's a group that I attend. It's called Colorado Firearm Safety Coalition, and it's with the CU researchers and different groups. And I know that they look at all the ERPOs that are filed, and I don't know if they do it by county, but they do look at all of those and see like whether or not they were approved or if they were dismissed. And so they're recent, and I don't know that they have it for, I've missed the last couple meetings, but I don't think they have it for this like past year, but the prior years they did do research on that. So I can see if I can find the most recent article that they had put out where they looked at all the individual cases, and I don't know if they broke it down by county or not, but
Oh, I'm so glad someone's looking at that.
Yeah.
Someone's monitoring that.
Yeah.
And
Well,
reporting that.
And reporting too, yeah. As I'm just kind of doing a very quick search, maybe this is where I heard some of that information to start. I will drop this in the chat. It looks like this is a decent article by CPR, and there's a section in it that is titled "Where Police Are and Aren't Using the Law." And it makes, and this was, it's kind of old now, just dating back to January, but as of that time, it said in most counties, police have filed a handful of red flag petitions. At most, in 40 of Colorado's 64 counties, they've filed none at all. But there's a lot of interesting information in this. I'll have to go through it more closely, but I'll drop it in the chat as well.
I'm sorry, folks, I need to head out. But thank you all for being here. Thank you, Rionda.
Thank you, Beth, for
Take
getting
care.
us on.
Yeah, sorry it was difficult. I swear someday we'll get it right.
We will. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay.
Well, just talking about ERPO too, Colorado Ceasefire right now is doing an excellent job traveling around and really spreading information about ERPO and getting people educated. And that's kind of one of their big priorities right now. I actually attended, I think they did one for the league, right? Didn't we have one?
Yes, last May or June. Yeah.
Okay. And since then, I've been to 2 other presentations, one with our Be Smart group. They had Colorado Ceasefire do a presentation for them. And then they also, a local church here in Fort Collins, invited them to come and do a presentation there. So they've really committed themselves to spreading the message about ERPO and they do an excellent presentation. In fact, I'm glad I went to all 3 because I think they're doing better and better. It's almost like every time they do a presentation, they add a little more information, and they really keep it updated. They're not just doing the same thing over and over again. You know, they're
Right.
really providing more updated information about how to, and it's this bridge, what's it called? Bridge for Justice, I think, that you're inviting to come next.
Yes.
They talk about them and how it's possible to, they give the link, you know, to find the information that they're providing. So they're really getting that good information out there. So I think as much as we can support their efforts, that would be good too.
Okay.
The other thing I wanted to mention, I did attend Joe Nagoose and Hakeem Jeffries were in Boulder, and they did a special gun violence prevention panel where they called it a listening session, and I attended that. It was in, I was trying to figure out, remember the date now, but it was in August, at the end of August, or middle to end of August. And I attended that just as a listener, but they had a whole panel of people that were speaking about gun violence prevention in different ways. We had a Moms Demand Action person on the panel, but there also were quite a few. Is it Beverly Kinston that's coming?
Yes.
She was one of the panelists that day.
Okay.
She was excellent. And then, and I can, you know, share some of that information. I think it would be good for you to see who all the panelists were, because maybe they're, again, potentials for coming to speak at later times on other topics. But they really focused on youth, which I think is interesting, you know, thinking about this Youth Advisory Council and talking about the schools, because they really talked a lot about, you know, how we need to do better in the schools, and more about saying how important it was to have a steady stream of funding to keep these programs going that are already underway in the schools, and that we can't depend on grants, because grants come and go, and you know that it's very difficult to keep some of these good programs in violence prevention among youth and that kind of thing going if you don't have a steady stream of funding. So anyway, there's a lot of really good information about that. I don't think it was recorded because we probably couldn't do that for some reason, but anyway, I would be glad to at least share a link to one of the articles about who was there and what was discussed.
Please do.
So maybe if I can get that to you, Rhonda, you could put that
Yeah.
out to everyone. Okay.
Yeah. Link. Yes, and any other links that y'all find, send to me and I will put them in the blog, you know, which isn't a real blog, that it's a bulletin board. And we pass them out. They actually get viewed by quite a few people. Anywhere from 20 to 60 for each one. So people are looking at it.
Yeah, thank you for putting that together. And also thank you for asking these people to come and speak to us, because I've been getting the word out to Moms Demand Action people actually, and some of them are, I think, will be attending next Wednesday's
Great.
Zoom. And so I think we can get the word out to more and more people, you know, more and more partners in this effort.
Yes.
And get more people listening in on these things.
And yes, the more we speak to each other, the better the thinking, the better the response, the more yeasty it'll be.
Mm-hmm.
And we can get things going. Anything else that our partners have been doing that we'd like to pay attention to?
I was just gonna, I do a lot of work with gun owners for safety with Giffords. And so we tabled at the 720 memorial event in Aurora, which is for the Aurora theater shooting. And so we were giving out gun locks. And then they recently did a survivors event here in Denver. Yeah. And also then was able to attend, former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords did come in town for that. They also did a fundraiser for a gentleman who's running in District 8. I think it's District 8. And then I just attended a Safe States, which was like a new conference that I've never really heard about before, but it had a lot of people from different organizations getting together. They had different data like the Whiskers database, and just a bunch of different groups and organizations that not only work on like firearm prevention, just injury prevention in general. So there's a lot of public health officials there, a lot of different organizations. They also looked at like opioid crisis and things like that, but a lot of it was focused on firearm prevention. And so had an opportunity to meet Jonathan McMillan from Office of Gun Violence Prevention, and he did like he was a panelist today. It was really well done. And then Dr. Emmy Betts, who works in firearm prevention as well. So that was just like a really neat opportunity to like just kind of learn about different areas there people are working. And so yeah, it was just a really interesting event for sure.
Great.
Yeah.
And Emily, was that called Safe States? Is that what you said?
Yeah, it was called Safe States. They had about 700 attendees, and it was here in Denver, and it was a like 2.5-day event, and it was a lot of researchers presenting their data, and then also just a lot of public health officials that also were presenting how they started like different, coalitions for firearm prevention in different states and what that looked like, hospital prevention, and just kind of how they learned to build the coalitions within their state, but then also like within their communities.
Mhm.
So it's a pretty interesting event for sure.
Were there more than one state I mean, is it just Colorado, or were there other states involved?
No, it was a lot of different states. So I met
Okay.
people from like Nashville, Tennessee. I actually met somebody from the coroner's office that got me thinking about when we were talking about the sheriff before. And that was for Denver County. And so she's also working with like as a family advocate after firearm deaths, and kind of trying to look at some of the upstream root causes that she might be able to help prevent. So I'm hoping to have coffee with her at some point and kind of just see how we could maybe collaborate.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Emily, I am really excited to hear all the different ways that you're connecting. So if you could share some of that with this group, that'd be wonderful. Maybe through Rianda, just, get some of that information out, because I know, I can't think of the name of it now, but the Emmy Betts organization, I get that newsletter all the time. And I know, that they are just, a fantastic organization. They're really, from a public health perspective, they're really looking at, gun safety from that perspective. And then, gun owners under Giffords, I think is a really great thing too. So yeah, if you know of these events, let us know.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're because I think that it would fit in quite well if you guys want to do like tabling events and things like that,
Mhm. Yeah.
for sure.
Well, I
Yeah.
know Emmy Best's organization she herself wasn't there, but at the Fort Collins event we had on the 8th and 9th, the Safe Surrender, she came, or one of their representatives came, and we're on the panel of speakers that night
Oh, nice.
so that was great too. Yeah.
Oh, and I actually just I was able to get 2 tools from Raw Tools. I was so excited.
Oh, neat.
My dad and I had done one of their events in Aurora. And so that'll be one of his Christmas gifts, but
Cool.
they sell
Very
out
cool.
pretty quick. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, let's see. We hit those. We're good. All right. We did, when we left the beginning of the summer, we had said that, what we can do first as the league is to inform and educate. That, that is a mission of ours, and that's one of our strong points. If we have 2 speakers lined up now, I think that we probably need a few more before, too long. And are there other ways that we can be working on this? Do you have speaker recommendations? One of the topics I'd like to hear about is the Bruin Law. and how that one's shaking out. I mean, and I have no idea where to go to ask about this, but that is one topic that I'd like to hear about later.
But
Do y'all have thoughts on those?
it might be, I mean, it seems like the legal perspective is so important right now. That seems like lots happening in the courts. So yeah, I think some kind of a legal perspective would be really good to have, whether that's an attorney general at state level, or I know we had a district attorney, one of the panelists that at the listening session I attended was I think I still have his card right here. It was the district attorney for the 20th Judicial District, and his name is Michael Doherty.
Oh yeah,
You know him? Okay.
I know of him. I don't.
Okay. He was very well spoken, and he seemed very willing. He was, obviously he's one of the panelists on gun violence prevention. So he was talking about handing out gun locks too. So, but he's a district attorney, so maybe he would have, I don't know, would that be an idea for someone who might have a legal perspective or not? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just one idea.
Yeah, he should be. All right. I will put him on my list to contact. Okay, so of course they'll only be available a certain amount of time and we have more slots. What else would be of interest?
I don't know if this is helpful or not, but Colorado ceasefire had also had a lawyer, and I forget his name, so it might be the same person. But they had a lawyer come and talk about Bruin decision as well. So
Great.
Yeah.
We will pick their brain about that. Okay.
Well,
What
I know
else?
there was just something in the news, thinking about the legal again, there was just something in the news that I read today or very recently about the governor of New Mexico, right, being sued about, her decision. So, I was thinking it really would be a good discussion just in general about how this whole thing works, because I know all the different gun violence prevention organizations now have legal departments that are filing amicus briefs all over the place, right, to try to get these things supported and not turned back by the gun rights people. So anyway, yeah, it's a very, very good topic. I mean, it would even be good to think about some kind of a panel discussion about that, not just one speaker, but maybe a lot of speakers that could take different parts of that. I don't know. It's just a thought.
And if we were going to go that broadly, we might be able to find some coalition partners to go with us.
Yeah.
So we should look at that. Okay. Okay, so I saw it was on PBS last week, a reporting about school aged people joining shooting clubs. And this seems to be one of the fastest growing sports in the country. And it might be interesting to find out where that is happening. How rigorous it is on the safety aspects. I mean, of course, everyone there said, "Oh yes, we're tough," but are they really? And somehow the sports act part of this is something that we don't ever talk about. And well, it's not gun violence, and good thing for it, but as a sport, perhaps it would broaden our understanding a little bit to hear from people who do view these tools as sporting implements as
Mhm.
opposed to something that should be turned into a rake
Yeah,
or a
I also,
hoe.
I saw that also, and I was just sort of surprised by the whole
Yeah.
prospect of this latest sport or whatever. It just.
So
it would
I
be-
will look around and see if I can find something to talk about just as a different perspective. I mean, I think that
Mhm,
this is a topic that is so much bigger than,
mhm.
just one area, or it's, when we deal with it, it's almost like whack-a-mole,
Yeah,
you hit over here and something else pops over here.
yeah.
And I feel it stepping back a little bit and seeing what those other people are really thinking would be of
Mhm.
interest.
It would,
Um,
yeah, I'd wonder what they think about gun safety and how they approach that part of it. So it would be interesting to hear from them.
Yeah, especially when you think that 1,100,000 people bought guns in August.
Really?
Yeah. So there are guns out there and there are a lot and they keep coming. So,
Ugh.
so maybe I'm going to put that down as a topic and we'll keep looking for it. If you all think of people who would like to talk to us, please don't let the thought get away, contact them, contact me, whatever.
Emily, is that something with, I know Gifford's gun owners for gun safety seems like that would be a resource maybe for talking about guns more, because obviously they're all gun owners
Mhm.
who are part of that group. So they probably would have some good input on shooting clubs and how that can be a good thing as long as it's handled properly.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I guess I wonder about, like, I haven't heard that that's such a growing sport. I wonder like what kind of ages the kids are. Like for me personally, I grew up in Wisconsin and like I was 12 and had to go to a hunter safety course and then you had to register, all that kind of stuff. But there's also, I noticed at one of the sportsmen's expos, they had a like the National Parks and Wildlife has like a hunting like safety program. I don't know, I was kind of thinking of going just to see what it was like, just kind of see what kind of education they do. And then I also attended it's called at one of the local gun clubs is the Centennial Gun Club has they partnered with Big Waves. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that organization at all. It's started by a mom who lost her son to a road rage incident, and she also was shot and had some injuries from that. And the dentist, they were on their way to the dentist and a road rage incident had happened, and so they started a organization called Big Waves, and they focus a lot on like water polo because that's what her son was really into was water polo. But they also partnered with a gun club to teach safety to children. The only thing that I kind of struggled with a little bit was that it was as young as 6, which to me felt a little bit young to be introducing. I mean, I'm appreciative of the fact that it was gun safety and it was an educator. But anyways, they do a gun safety course where the parents and the children come to it and was taught. I thought it was a good course. I didn't stick around for the actual shooting because I hadn't paid and I felt kind of bad using their ammunition without paying for the course. But they have a gun safety course through that organization as well. But yeah, I mean, like Gun Owners for Safety, there's, I mean, a ton of us that are all gun owners, a lot of sports shooters. Some are former veterans, a lot are duck hunters, that kind of thing. So I don't know if that's helpful or what you were looking for.
Yeah.
Do the gun owners for safety pretty much focus on the long guns, hunting guns and stuff? Or are there also a subgroup there with handguns, self-protection handgun people?
Yeah, it's a pretty large tent. There's some that do own guns for self-defense, some that are hunters, some are collectors, some do own assault weapons and don't support, like, you know, that's a pretty touchy subject within our like organization.
Yeah, I know.
So but I know that they're I mean, personally, I don't own assault weapons, but that, you know, I don't really see the need for them. I did shoot one like in Vietnam, but that was I think if you want to go to a range, maybe like that kind of thing, but that's just my own personal opinion.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a pretty big tent.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
Okay. Well. So I was looking at things that had come back from our last meeting, which was quite a while ago. And we talked about topics for discussion to include owner accountability, extent of training, safe storage as areas of common ground, possible speakers and activities. So I think we have a lot to go on. Does anybody have somebody that they'd like to contact right away to come talk to us? Yeah. I mean, yeah. Are you best friends with Emmy Betts?
I can ask.
Please give us her number. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we actually, I missed the meeting yesterday because of the safe states, but let me look at our next, when would you need to know by?
Well, let's see. We probably want to do it in November before Thanksgiving. And then we probably won't need anybody to talk. We won't be able to find anybody, including each other, in December. We would probably be able to accommodate a speaker in January, February, and March. So, you know, and there's nothing that says that, you know, we can't skip a month, or, you know, if we got really lucky, we could have two, but, you know, or, you know, we could take some time and construct a panel. That could be very interesting. So, you know, it's all very open-ended, and, you know, most of the answers of any questions I come up with are yes. So, you know,
Just so I understand, is it like, are you guys planning an event where like speakers come, or is it to this group like that's on the screen right now, like to have her come talk?
it's under the umbrella of this group,
Okay.
but the invitations are much broader.
Okay. And then do you want her, so her background is a emergency room physician and then researcher. Would you just want her, is there specific things you'd want her to talk about, or would it be like a panel question?
At this point, it could just be whatever she would want to talk. What would we like to hear from her about?
Well, as far as I know, her work, she mostly worries about suicide and people coming to the emergency room that are in mental distress and trying to get them to give up their guns. But is that fair, Emily?
Yeah, she definitely works in the emergency department. And then she also, like, I know she's done like article or like research articles about like the language, like around like firearms versus guns and things like that. And then, she also, I think her group, I don't know exactly which researcher does it or how it started, but was like it's called like the Gunshot Project. Where they can voluntarily give up their guns.
Well, I think, Emily, I think what I read about the gun, because we were thinking about doing that with our league, is visiting gun shops and actually talking to the gun shop owners. So I think some of that gun shop project had to do with the gun dealers, actually going and working with them to get them to provide more information on suicide prevention or whatever. I'm not sure what the goal was, but I think they really were going to different gun dealers, right? Different gun shops and talking to the owners. And I think there was a whole report about that. Is it still ongoing? Do you know if it's still?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, they're still doing it. So I mean, if you wanted, I could see who also was like the main person who started that and see if you wanted to have them come talk or anything. Or maybe like the two of them.
That would be great. I think.
I would even like to hear more about her background and how she got started with this and how she started this whole institute, and the kinds of research that they're doing, and just kind of a general overview, and maybe specifically then get into something like the gun shop project and other specific things where we maybe could even help. Is there something where there are some actions that we could take in conjunction with what they're doing, or I don't know, something like that.
Okay. Cool. I can definitely ask her.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we have things to do. Wonderful. I will put give the recording to Jane, and she'll post it, so that'll be available. I will put up my notes and make those available through the blog. Let's see what else looks like I'm supposed to do here.
Were you going to contact Michael Doherty about potentially speaking on?
He's the boy, yes. Let me make his name very big so I won't miss it. Okay, so I'm looking at Michael Daughtry. Emily is going to look at Emmy Betts and her group. I mean, someone there would probably have something to say that or be willing to talk to a larger subset of us. Okay. And
one question, do we want to poll LAC for a consensus to contact COIAC to really urge that they move forward with that proposal?
There we go. Yes. Well, let's see. How do we do that since LAC isn't meeting right now?
Yeah. I can email the group and I will attach the policy proposal summary that we've got in the chat here so they can read through it. It's not obviously the text of a bill, but I think it sets out the components of what the legislation will include sufficiently for us to be able to determine that, this aligns with our position, something we want to support. And then I think from there, we just want to draft communication both to the legislators that sit on COIAC and then also to the coalition manager, so she can communicate that to the students who are involved. I think we just want to make sure that that's, over to them well in advance of that October 25th hearing.
Okay. Well, before 25 October. Okay, I'll make that very big too. Right. Okay. So Andrea, do you want to contact the LAC and then you and I will draft,
That sounds great. Yeah, I think we'll probably just need a few days to allow them to review. And I know during the interim, LAC may not be checking email quite as often, but I think within a couple of days, we should be able to determine if we have a consensus on that. And then I'll follow up. And obviously, Brianda, you'll see the communication go out to LAC, but I'll let you know when it seems we have a consensus so we can start drafting that up.
Okay. And we will send draft to you. All of you, so that there's no vast lake of between us all.
And I'm thinking we probably want to have that, maybe we sign off on it as maybe you're the signatory, Rhonda, as the LAC gun violence prevention lobbyist, and on behalf of the task force as well.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Do we have other tasks that I missed? No. All right. Well, if I did, you will correct me, I'm sure. I'll look forward to seeing you all next Wednesday when Beverly Kingston will be here. I have circulated this through the Colorado Coalition Against Gun Violence, so I hope that I've dragged a wider net than usual. I tried let's see, Colorado at Greater Education, those people, and some other folks as well. So we should have a good time. All right. Well, I thank you for coming, and see you next week.